This is a great sort of, again, this is not legal advice. This is just a very simple way to show how you have your different licensors and ways to be able to approach your sync license, your mechanical license, and your master license, as well as what I mentioned on the previous slide, which is public performance. The best answer and the best thing that I can suggest to all y'all is to ask. When in doubt, ask the question to the respective publisher or the respective rights owner, and that will alleviate any concerns down the road. As the sophistication on these streaming platforms has continued to advance, there is a lot of automation that comes with detecting copyright issues. And what I mean by that is whenever you're streaming something, depending on the platform that you're on, there's a lot of background technology that's assessing if there is copyright infringement potentially happening. It could stop your stream in the middle of a performance. It could present you with a copyright infringement notification afterwards, requiring you to take down your particular performance or stream. And it's become an issue. Anecdotally, I think someone from 11 wants to chime in, so I don't sort of butcher the story. But from what I was talking with some of you last week, I thought it was interesting that your pre-show music that you just have on in the venue or in the environment before the stream actually started, you have to be very careful about that not going onto your stream, because that's not part of what you're licensing. If I'm correct in sort of how that works, is the difference between pre-recorded music that's caught on your live stream versus what you're doing with your live stream performance. Those are just factors and things that you have to be keeping in mind and being very careful of, so that you're not sort of at risk of having a stream be pulled down.
There's another important piece. A lot of these companies are using some form of AI to try to identify copyright infringement, and we ran into this at UTA because we've set up a streaming system in an Iron Recital Hall, and we had our test concert was a flute festival all day Saturday, and then they streamed the concert that night, and all of the music was written before, 1800. I mean, it's very classical with a big C music, and of course in public domain. And that one we were streaming to Facebook, and they identified 3/4 of the songs on there as infringing upon a Naxos copyrighted CD or recording, which is not correct. I mean, it was a live performance, so you have to be careful about kind of following up and making sure that their AI isn't flagging you inappropriately for, a copyright infringement.
Yep, great. Thanks, Dan. And yeah, these can be intimidating. I won't sort of discount the fact that they are something to navigate. But as everyone has done, from Dan to the Levin and other individuals that have waded into these waters, you just kind of have to learn and adapt based off of sometimes getting flagged incorrectly or going through the proper steps and channels to ensure that you have the licensing. So on to that question that was just presented about bandwidth and technical considerations. There's kind of two buckets to think about this in. There is your bandwidth, what you are working with, and then what the user is. With you and how you are working with your live stream, 10 megabytes per second is right in that sweet spot where you're going to be able to sustain 720p when it comes to your quality of stream. Anything less than 10 and it gets a little murky, I've heard people manage it in the 8 to 10, but again, that becomes a little murky when it comes to that. To really get a high quality 1080p HD stream, you're going to have a much more significant bandwidth, upwards of 25 megabytes per second. one thing to sort of note about this, and what is constantly sort of a battle, is making sure that when you're going onto a site, if you're sharing the internet with any other provider or any other user on that connection, to make sure that they shut down their systems as well. That can really create a lot of irregularities in your stream and potentially sort of bog you down. If, for example, if you're streaming from a restaurant and you're using the restaurant's Wi-Fi, oftentimes that restaurant is also using their internet for their POS, for their system where their operating systems are on, and that can really slow down your ability to create a seamless stream throughout the event. When it comes to the viewer, it's there's nothing that you can technically do, right? We've all been there. We've all had issues where things have been buffering, or there's been issues with something that has gone on in and out of focus in terms of the quality of the video stream. The best thing that we can say from the production side of things, just make sure that based off of the streaming platform that you're using, that it allows for that variability to happen, that it doesn't just completely kick you off of the stream. So allowing for it to automatically correct based off of the viewer's internet bandwidth is going to be sort of the best way to ensure that the user has the best experience possible. Because as I'm sure we've all experienced, the moment that something starts to slow or lose quality or just generally just stop, we leave and we are on to something else. And then the last thing to consider is not locking yourself into a single platform. So not just looking at Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or what have you as a single platform to be able to promote your content on, but to actually use a platform like StreamYard, Hovercast, Switchboard Live to be able to disseminate your stream to a variety of different web channels all at once. This is a helpful way to, again, broaden your audience. And with the growth and popularity of Instagram as a streaming platform, it's a good way to get around the fact that Instagram technically is a mobile application, meaning there's no computer way to stream your performance onto Instagram. It has to be through your phone, which, as we've mentioned a number of times, has very limited quality. So you can use the streaming platform multiplier that allows you to do that. All right, so what's next? First, it's about just jumping in right now. Leveling your expectations and being able to go in with the familiarity that you have based off of our discussion today, and being willing to work outside of your comfort zone is very key. We have people from a variety of different disciplines and a variety of different experiences here. But as a classical musician myself, I know that we tend to be perfectionists in almost everything that we do. And we are very focused on putting out the best product possible. And sometimes that's not going to always be the case. And that's okay. And we need to kind of level those expectations and understand that this is a learning experience, not just for you or your organization, but knowing that it frankly, it only gets better. But you have to try it and experiment before it will ever get better. Learning from others is my number one recommendation moving forward from here. There's incredibly smart people around your community that are doing this to varying degrees of sophistication. And in our experience working in your community over the last 3 months, they've all been very willing and interested in lending a hand or answering a couple questions along the way when something is presented to them. So in the last sort of 10 minutes or so, I want to sort of just open up any sort of discussion about how you think that you can apply some of these principles and live streaming efforts, perhaps what stopped you in the past, or what kind of equipment you've used in the past and what you think you can do in the future. And if you've had any particularly good or bad experiences with any specific streaming platforms in the past that you can share any wisdom from, or any sort of advice on. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say what's worked really well for me. We've done live streaming of live bands quite a few times, and then also live streaming of the Downtown Arlington podcast. And what worked really well for both of those was a system called OBS, which allows you to plug in all your sound, all your video, and plug in just a bunch of different aspects of, text layovers and stuff like that. It allows you to add in pre-recorded content. And OBS is free, yeah. And so that equipment has worked really well for me and our team. And another piece is I've got a bunch of DSLR cameras because I'm a photographer. And so I kind of came into it like, how do I use these nice cameras to actually do a good stream? And cam cards, which you had in your diagrams, John, are extremely useful. And the one I use is called an Elgato Cam Link 4K, and it's really revolutionized the quality that we're able to stream in. So, that's what's worked well.
Awesome, thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
I would like to add one very practical piece of advice. I'm 63 years old, so to people of my generation, I think the most important thing to do is to find somebody younger than you are to help with this stuff. Don't be embarrassed to do that. Hence Sean's leading rule.
I have a question. What about Facebook rooms? How can I, since I do a open mic every Thursday night, and how do I have the people that are participating in the open mic maybe all be in the same room, and the musicians just support each other? Because I'm just trying to figure out an easy way for, again, us older people to do this. I mean, this is my first Zoom, so hello. Sorry about the cat passing through earlier.
It was great. Very, very good ambiance around. So you want to have individuals that are physically together be able to do different performances? Do I understand that correctly?
Yes. Yeah.
So Facebook is a good platform, and Facebook Live is a good way to sort of introduce yourself to it. Like I mentioned, it is free, and it's about being able to have is it all music? I'm assuming you said, or is it an open? Is there spoken word? Is there any other sort of aspects to the performances?
Right now, it's just musicians with their guitars.
The guitar is great. So yeah, I think that can be a very easy, pretty straightforward setup in terms of the microphones needed. Something as simple as some of the Blue or Audio-Technica microphones that I mentioned earlier in the slides are roughly $100, $125. That has the sort of ideal sort of introduction to being able to pick up a higher quality audio, and then it's whether it's using a computer computer camera, or investing in something like a GoPro. You can really get going with $225 to $250 of investment in some of these most simple camera and microphone, and just begin to trial. I think the best thing is from an experimentation standpoint is try recording it ahead of time, and then listening back to it, whether it's just yourself or with a group of individuals, just so that you get to better understand if there's anything that you need to adjust in any of those feeds, whether it's the audio or visual, before going live. Sometimes people are very eager to jump right into a live stream, and it can it can encounter a lot of complications that you can get ahead of if you do a couple trials on your own or with a small group of people that you can work with.
And the lighting too. I find when I'm blinded by the light and it's really hot and sweaty, that's when I look the best. So I mean, we got to have a fan going too. Then, and so that just hurts the noise that you're trying to have a clear sound. So, do you have any suggestions about lighting? I see a lot of people sweating during their live streams.
Sure. I personally do not have anything to get around the hot and nasty weather that we are currently all experiencing. Even here in New York, it's 95 degrees and humid. So I think there's unfortunately a little bit of that is part of the course. At the same time, I wouldn't get too worried about the sound aspect if you have to use a fan or something like that. Some of these mics can be, with mild adjustments to them, can be sort of set up in such a way that you're not getting any sort of interference from fans or things like that on your feed.
Sean, this is Letitia from the Levitt. I'll just have to say, just from our experience, I sat on a Zoom in the very beginning, and they said, whatever you do, and you mentioned it earlier, just don't be afraid. Get out there and try, and that we're in kind of a forgiving time period where no one expects perfection, and authenticity seems to win out sometimes over just it being so overproduced sometimes. And so I think our team, what we did is we got out, and if you'll go back on our Facebook page and you'll go back to our very first live stream, and that was with Brad Thompson, and he did a great job. It was live from the Levitt on the upper balcony of the hospitality center, and it was with his phone and my phone. And so we started out, his views were great, and if you look, they're still increasing to this day. And so we went from just watching what others were doing and adding the lower third at the bottom, over the last few performances. But I think it was just taking that risk, getting out there and, again, not expecting perfection. And then also when you do it, make sure everybody is watching and sharing. And so I think that I would just say don't be afraid. We've stubbed our toes a little, but most people don't even know. It's mainly the production team goes, oh, we really wanted it to do this, and it didn't. And just to try it. Don't miss this opportunity.
Right. Absolutely. And the sharing part is phenomenal, right? You have an incredible community around you, like I already mentioned. It's a perfect opportunity to boost each other up. And I know that the Levitt Pavilion community has been doing that, where you've been sharing your own performances from whether it's Bethlehem or Los Angeles or other pavilions around the country. But the same thing can happen across Arlington when you see one of your contemporaries or one of your fellow artists doing something. It's a very simple 2 clicks to be able to share it, and that just continues their exposure, and that becomes a really sort of positive momentum, both now and